It is a Duck game day.
That it is.
There was somebody on Twitter I saw yesterday afternoon, 3-year Letterman. He's basically a troll sports account.
Pretty funny account.
He had a delightful troll. Dan Lanning tweeted, "Happy anniversary to my wife of 15 years. Been a lot talked about with Dan Lanning and his wife." And that account responded with, "Big red flag, dude. You got married in the fall."
Football wedding guy? What are we doing, Dan?
I actually thought that was a sneaky point. Like, when did you get 15 years ago?
He actually talked about this in the Maria Taylor interview where he took his clothes off in front of her.
Yeah.
That the reason that they did it was a shotgun wedding. It
Sure.
was we got to get this thing done.
Baby coming.
We gotta let's do it now. So I don't think he would have chosen a fall wedding, but he didn't really have any choice.
I do
there.
love when people like stay married. It's great because then later on you get to tell the story of like, yeah, you got married because you were secretly pregnant.
Yes.
For some reason, that was a big deal for you and your family.
You got to be married before it all happens, man.
I didn't do that.
People frown upon that stuff.
Well,
How dare you? You're going to hell, man.
I was a white going into a different culture of family, having not done that. That was not great.
No,
that's not great for me.
Not good. That stuff's important.
I think it's less than 2% chance Oregon loses today. I just do not see any way, even if the hangover effect, short week, road trip, all of that.
Yeah.
It's their first big time zone jump of the year. I just, look, I get Purdue scored more points than they have all year in one game against Illinois. Okay, you want to hold on to that. I just don't see a path. Ducks could play 50% of what they played last week, and they win this game by 13.
The irony of that game last week, too, is that of their 49 points that they scored, well, 6 came in overtime. So of the 43 in regulation, 40 of them came in the second half.
It was all second-half comeback
It was
stuff.
24-3 at halftime, and everybody thought, okay, this game's over.
Illinois
And
let off the gas.
They
in a
scored
big one.
40 points in the second half. So I think a new play caller and a new quarterback does add a wrinkle. It makes it harder to game plan for just because you haven't seen it very much. But the numbers behind it tell you that this game should not be competitive. They give up, Purdue that is, in terms of rushing yards. And we talked about this going in when Oregon State played them earlier this year.
Yeah.
They are giving up 230 rushing yards per game on the ground. Like, this is a game after what you showed up front at your offensive line last week against Ohio State, that you should essentially just be able to turn around and hand the ball off the entire game and win comfortably. And so I think the only questions are short week and the travel. Those are the only two reasons why anybody would even ponder this game being competitive. I think the first quarter will tell us all we need to know. Does Oregon come out and look lethargic, funky? Is there a dumb turnover? Dylan Gabriel's had those outside of the Ohio State game. Remember, he had the 100-yard pick six against UCLA through 2 red zone interceptions against Michigan State. So you do that kind of stuff on the road where there's an actual crowd where there wasn't at UCLA, kind of wakes them up, makes them feel like they have a chance. If this game gets to the end of the first quarter and it's 14-0 Oregon, you just change. It's over. They're not going to you can tell me maybe they have a backdoor cover in the second half,
Whatever.
but I think the first quarter will tell us all we need to know if Oregon's focused and ready to play or if they're going to play with their food and this is going to be one of those dumb games.
I think it's Mississippi State, Purdue, and UCLA in the running for worst teams in the Power Four.
Who's the team in the Is there one in the ACC?
I looked up the
candidate?
ACC one. The ACC one is North Carolina. I think North Carolina could score.
North Carolina's pretty bad.
They're bad. Their defense is bad.
They gave up 70 to James Madison at
Boy,
home.
your NC State Wolfpack
rough year.
preseason
Rough
dirty
year.
poll.
Oh,
We're not howling right now. We're limping.
Yeah, everybody's limping right now. Not
Super
feeling good
thrilled
about that one.
Future.
You had a future ticket on NC State.
I was a part of that show. That guy got me all riled up. I was
That's
like,
right.
Back.
That guy was fired up, man.
How about the bottom 4 of the ACC? Florida State, Cal, NC State, and UNC.
Yeah, that's a
Yikes.
bonanza
Bad
right
for
there.
Cal because they're like right there on all of
They are. They've lost like 3 games by 8 points.
Their
It's
point differential
insane.
is so close this year. You feel bad for them the way that they haven't been able to pull through. I'll give you one thing that I'm curious of tonight.
Sure.
Because I know there's not a lot of stuff for people, and I get it. It's, Friday.
To go from Ohio State to Purdue
It's a massive
such
letdown.
a huge, oh, God.
And I'm actually wondering if the Friday thing helps with the letdown of, there's not even enough time to, react to the Ohio State win. You're back in the office on Sunday, and it's we lost a day. There's no time to even dwell on the win. So maybe that's just me in my own head trying to be confident about a blowout.
I think you give the kids that night. They partied. Lanning said he got home at midnight, 1 o'clock. And then I think the next day you come in and you start game planning. They watch film, and then come Monday, it's all right, guys, this is what we're going to do.
We got a game Friday. We're traveling on Thursday. We got to turn around. What is there any punishment for Trayshawn Holden? Is one of the biggest things that I'm curious of tonight. And how does that look? Does he play the entire game? Does he not play at all? Does he miss a quarter? Does he miss a half?
What would you do?
I would suspend him for part of the game without a doubt. Like that was horrific.
I couldn't
Oregon.
believe he did that.
I mean, that's like one of the cardinal sins that you cannot do in the sport of football. And
The guy was wearing a visor. What did you think you were going to do with your spit?
You don't
It
spit on
happens
people
all the time, actually.
I mean,
No,
sure,
no, I believe that.
but you don't do it. It doesn't
when it's
matter.
blatant like that is what we're talking about.
In a
It's stupid,
4
but it
feet in front of an
happens.
official after a play is over. It's one thing when you're blocking a guy and you're in the middle of a scrum and you hock a loogie on a dude. You give him a little bit of the.
Spit on that guy.
It's different when there's an official 4 feet away and the play's over. And oh, by the way, it's 2nd and goal from the 8-yard line. Let's move you back to the 23. The way Lanning talked about it on Monday, he was livid with what he did. So I imagine there's a lot of behind the scenes punishment. But I'm curious of, will the rubber meet the road there, or is this just going to be sure, go out and play? It's a Friday night. We want our full complement of wide receivers. That's one of the bigger things I'm curious, because Lanning has not had a lot of these where, like, in terms, we've had a couple of guys get in trouble off the field, but most of the legal stuff has been kind of sorted its way through and figured out, and hasn't been that big of a deal. This is one where it was on the field
Well, he
in
was
front of
one of them.
millions of people.
Off the field
was.
problems, he was one of them.
He absolutely was. And so, is there a punishment there? I'm really curious to see that tonight.
I think there's a game you can do it. Like,
I mean, this is a game.
it sends
You're-
a message, and it's like, hey, you go back in the second half, and we'll probably be up 20-3.
Yes. And Justice Lowe's coming on fine. Like, you got two good wide receivers. You'll be okay.
It's not even so much just like Oregon's offense. We know what it is. It's that defense. Like, Purdue's going to do that against the defense.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing them running the ball consistently enough, and that their quarterback is a good athlete who ran around and made plays with his legs. I just have a hard time seeing them mustering enough of a challenge tonight to make this thing close, but that's the beauty of football, man. They're not playing on paper. You got to go play it tonight in West Lafayette.